G'day Internet, welcome back to another video. So, about a week or so ago, it was kind of, I don't know, late afternoon, I was flipping through the vintage section of eBay, as you do, and I'm sure all of you are guilty of it too, and up pop a machine that doesn't really appear all that often here in Australia, and that is this. This is a Commodore 16. Now, not a computer I would normally be that interested in, but I don't actually own a TED-based Commodore, so I thought it might be a little interesting. But more importantly, it was only 10 kilometers away. Actually, it wasn't even 10. eBay said it was 10, but it was literally a 5-minute drive around the corner. So yeah, I went and bought it. I won't say how much I paid for it. It was reasonable considering what vintage computers are going for these days. But it is boxed. The manual's missing, but the power supply, and there is a cartridge in there. Now, the box is obviously a little beat up and quite faded, but I do actually have the kind of, there's a Commodore 64 in a similar size box, and I've got that box. So the two will kind of look pretty good together. At some point in the future, I do actually want to have a go at least removing some of the staining on this box to get it a bit more presentable. I think I might talk to Dave from Toy Polloi about that because he's got quite a bit of experience restoring cardboard, both boxes and bits of old toys, so that'd be kind of interesting. So there's no point it just sitting here in the box. Let's pull it out and take a closer look. Before we do, quick little interesting thing on the box. Made in England, by appointment of Her Majesty the Queen, Manufacturers of Computer Business Systems, Commodore Business Machines UK Limited, Corby. So, it's a Commodore with the Royal Seal of Approval. Righto, here we go. This should just slide out. Put aside the cardboard sleeve, and there is our Commodore 16 in all its black. Now, someone actually told me recently that quite a few Commodore 64 owners like to pinch this case and keyboard and transplant in the guts of a Commodore 64 because of its beautiful blackness. But we're not going to do that. Here we have the Commodore 16. We've got jack attack. And we have the genuine power supply, which outputs 9 volt DC, 1 amp. And obviously we're going to test that with the multimeter before we plug it into this machine. Taking a closer look at the machine, this is obviously a Commodore 64 bread bin case that has been repurposed. The keyboard at first glance seems to be the same keyboard. And the only real difference I can see is F8 has been replaced with help. There also seems to be no restore key. So yeah, I guess that's a thing. On the side we have our 2 mini DIN plugs for the joysticks because they decided to change the joystick port, I guess for space saving, but I really don't know. You can get adapters for a standard Atari style joystick, however. We do have a reset button, which is a nice little upgrade over the Commodore 64. On-off, and our barrel plug for power. On the back, cartridge/expansion port, RF video, serial and video, which are identical to the Commodore 64, so you can use your cables, and again another mini DIN for the cassette. Now it's a quick whirlwind tour. What I'm more interested in is to test this power supply and get this machine up and running. So, is it negative center? We're reading 13.2 volts, but I suspect that being an old school AC adapter, that will drop when there's some load on it. So, I'm going to chance it, and I'll measure some chips actually on the board. Actually, you know what? Screw it. This thing was sold to me tested and working. Let's see if it's tested and working. It boots. Well, it's a good start. Right, I got this cartridge here, jack attack, so put you in the back. Power it on. Jack Attack. I have no idea what this game is, but it works. Well, in that case, let's go one step further and, oh, what is the command? Isn't it, I think it's deload, asterisk? No, I hit the Commodore key. Deload, I'm typing it in brown, doesn't matter. I have my Pi 1541 plugged in and there should be Trailblazer. Trailblazer. Nice. How do I start? Right. I hit a random button. Damn it. Right. It was the other joystick port. Whoop. That didn't go well. I've never actually played this game before, but I am aware that, oh, for God's sake, I am aware that this game is basically what, hey look, I'm doing better without even touching it. This is kind of what that Yump game that I love on the Atari is based on, but it works. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know that much about the Commodore 16, but one thing I do know is that it's the baby brother of the Plus 4. And apart from aesthetics, the main difference is this came with 16K of RAM, and the Plus 4 came with 64. Now, due to software houses preferring to target the lowest common denominator, a lot of software was written for purely 16K, like this machine here. However, it would seem, looking around, that a lot of homebrew and modern stuff and original stuff does require that 64K, and the upgrade on this is actually pretty simple. Now, there are some kits you can buy online which do all this for you and are even switchable back to 16K. But if you know anything about this channel, you know I like a bit of DIY-ness. So that is the mod that we're going to perform on this. It essentially requires socketing 4 chips, 274 series logic and the 2 RAM chips, swapping the 2 RAM chips and running a couple of extra, I assume they're address lines from those 74s. So let's get to it. So it will come as no surprise that I've never pulled a C16 apart before, but it is just simply a bread bin case, so how hard can it be? It should just be, yes there is, 3 screws underneath. And if we open it up, we've got what seems to be power LED and keyboard. Get you out of the way. And a cardboard RF shield. Yeah, I think I know where that's going to go. Let's get it out of the way. Now, I have already spotted on here a power rectifier regulator thing, you know what I'm talking about. And I did still want to check the voltages on this, and that seems like a logical place to do that. And on, and I'm going to assume this is all grounded. We've got 9 point, whoop, we've got nothing. Let's try that again. Right, so what I'm looking for is something a bit lower than that 13 or whatever it was volts coming out of the power supply. And 10 volts at the switch, 9.9 at the other side of the fuse. We should have 9.9 at one side of the rectifier, and if I'm very careful, and a nice 5 volts on the other side of the rectifier, so that's good. We shan't talk about that fuse. All right, Now that I'm happy that that power supply is actually doing what it should be doing, let's get to modding this thing, which I guess means motherboard out. We seem to have a series of screws. Guessing that one's actually holding the side plate in, and there should be another one in the top corner. Is that enough? Is that all of it? Oh, we've got one more in between the video and serial ports. And now we're out. And this can go bye-bye. So the chips we want to look at are U7, U8, which are the two 74 series logic chips that we need to modify, and the two RAM chips, which are U5 and U6. So, time to bust out the desoldering gun. Now, I am going to start by adding some fresh solder once I turn the soldering iron on. Right, next to soldering, and probably some swearing. Righto, let's see how we did. Now, I haven't actually done any desoldering for a while, but I do have my hot air gun here if I need a little help. But, let's start here. Yep. Oh, there's one. Next is, let's get U8 out. You're in there good. Let's try U5, which is one of the RAM chips. Yeah, come on. Yep. U6, which is one of the other RAM chips. No, I can see you stuck good there because that is a massive ground plane. And it also turns out that I accidentally desoldered one of the resistor packs and missed half of one of the chips. Hang on a minute. Right, the hot air gun got that leg on the RAM chip, which was stuck in the ground plane. So now that we've got the chips out we want to put some sockets in, some both 16 pin and some 18 pin, so let's get on with that. Now, both the 74 series chips that we pulled out are both LS257s, so that's fine. 257s? 257s. And we need to lift some different legs on each one. So on U7, and I have it noted down here, pin 2 of chip U7. So let's take one of them and go 1, 2, and carefully lift you out. Right, that is U7, which is this guy just here. And it's pin 14 on U8, so counting back, because we know that's 16, 15, 14. And it can go back into its socket. Now I have some 4164 RAM chips here, which can go back into where the old ones were. Next, we want to run those new address lines. Right up next to the RF modulator is a series of vias or pins or whatever just here, and we need to solder to a couple of those. So the 2 points we want are the 2 ones closest to the RF modulator. So I'm just going to tin these vias so I've got something a bit more substantial to solder to. And solder in some wires to them. Nice. Now obviously I want to be able to run these cables as neatly as I can to those 274 chips. And then at the other end we've got what's the leftmost pin up the top comes down to U7, and the pin, second solder point goes to U8. So you go here. And you come down to here. In a way I can actually see what I'm doing. Right. And that should be it. So let's test it. Okay, fingers crossed. Aha! It works! And we seem to have 60-something thousand bytes of memory free, which I'm guessing is 64K minus basic. But that seems successful. Awesome. So one thing I am aware of with the Commodore 16 is that, let's just say there's some chips in there that they're not all known for their longevity. So I have also some heat sinks here for the PLA, the CPU, and the TED chip, which I'm hoping might extend their life a little. So I'm going to put them on here as well. And obviously we want to make sure we target the center of each chip. These ones might be a bit big for the PLA, and we're going to have a bit of overhang. See how long these side ones last. Nope. Okay. I'll do something different for that. Right, now to think of some other solution for the PLA. And with the aid of a hacksaw and my bench grinder to smooth things out, we now have 2 half-size heat sinks. Not the prettiest things in the world, but it fits. Oh, come on, backing tape. Don't be a pain in the ass. Right. Now to bolt the whole thing back together. Missing a screw. I don't feel like it's sitting properly. Why? Got it. So with it all back together and our wonderful 64K of RAM, let's actually try out a game that uses 64K. I've got Boulder Dash lined up on the Pi 1541. I've chosen that because it's a game I can play without looking like a complete idiot. So deload. Anyway, is that going to work without capitals? Good old 1541 slow load times. There we go. And run. Now, I noticed, because I sparked this up a second ago, there doesn't seem to be... Look, I know the sound in the C16 is very limited. I think it's, what, 2 voice or something like that? But unless I'm going deaf, which of course is entirely possible, there's no sound effects. Maybe down in the comments you can tell me if that's right or not, or I've done something stupid. So I think for this video we're gonna leave it there. This is a machine I do want to come back to because I know that there are quite a few good games on this machine. But where am I at the moment? We'll go with mixed. Now, as an Australian, I'm conditioned from birth to always root for the underdog, and I guess you could put the Commodore 16 into that category, especially when you consider that it's not really a competitor to the Commodore 64, because even Commodore wasn't that stupid. It's more the spiritual successor of the VIC-20, we'll put it that way. And yes, I've now gone and thrown a bunch of RAM in it, but when you think about it, the VIC-20 had a bunch of RAM expansions available for it too, so am I really just cutting out the middleman? I'll let you decide. I am aware of some of the pros of this machine. I do know it has quite a nice color palette, and if you live in Powerland, you know that's something that the Commodore 64 kind of falls down a little bit on. For some reason we got a whole bunch of different shades of brown versus the wider color palette that those in the US did. But that's a side note. What I intend to do now is to go check out some games off camera, and the next time you see this computer, that's what I'd actually like to do, is actually check out some games on it and what other things it can do. So if you've got any suggestions for that, please put them down in the comments, because as you can probably understand, I'm completely new to this machine. But for now, that will pretty much do it. If you like the video, comment, like, subscribe, all the usual YouTube-y stuff. A big thank you to all my patrons who you can see scrolling up the screen now. And if you'd like to help support the channel, there's a link to Patreon in the description. But until then, I'll see you in the next one.